Welcome to the Evolution Partners podcast, where I talk with the world's leading thinkers, planners and doers who are helping to build great companies in their own way. We learn how the work they're doing is creating an impact and get to know a little bit more about them and what makes them tick. This episode is brought to you by Evolution Partners, where we help leaders to confidently build enduring great companies using our proven, structured, strategic planning process that ensures you build and execute the right plan. Check us out at evolutionpartners.com.au. Also, you can check out our books, Made to Thrive, outlining how to be a great CEO, as well as Onboarded, which is about making your new hires more effective faster. Julia is a sales strategist and professional negotiator who helps service-based organisations to teach a repeatable, customisable sales process which becomes the revenue machine of the company. She's the only Australian with a LinkedIn Learning course, and that course helps develop sales skills for non-sales professionals. She's also the author of the book From Pitch to Profit: How to Build Genuine Trust and Achieve Business Success with the Infinite Sales System, which is due for release in June this year. You can find Julia at juliaewert.com. Julia.
Hey, Brad.
Hello. What I see in you is a person who loves to compete and loves to help people win, and especially to help leaders to become more effective. I see through the work that you've done that there's a thread that's helping people to become better. If that resonates with you, how did you come to be in this place?
Yeah, I'm curious that you see me as someone competitive. That's something I've not actually heard before, legitimately. So people use other words, but that's a new one. How I've come to be in this place, there's two answers to that. So I'm going to share personally how I've come to be in this place, and then professionally how I've come to be in this place. And what you'll find is that they end up, the story is relevant for both. The very short version personally is that I was, as a kid, Brad, I was bullied through all of my schooling, and for a host of reasons actually, all very unpleasant. And so I grew up with constant messaging that was along the lines of, Julia, you are a loser and you will amount to nothing. And, and kids can be jerks. And these kids did horrible, horrible things to me. And we have this stress response, right? Fight, flight, or freeze. My stress response is freeze. My brain knows what to say, but nothing comes out. So I had kids, in all seriousness, do some really awful things to me, and I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. I just stood there. And then 10 minutes later, I had all the great stuff to say. But it's that freeze response. And so I went through most of my schooling just not fitting in, and I was never one of the cool kids. And whether I said that there was legitimate reasons for why I was bullied, I think there were legitimate reasons for why I was bullied. I just had some family stuff that wasn't great. And so I wasn't great at anything. I didn't have any special gifts or talents. I just was a very subpar human. And so, but I just never believed it. Now, I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I always thought, no, I'm sure there's something I can do. I'm sure there's something that I've got. Anyway, so I left school, went to uni, and then had a corporate career, which was quite good. For 2 decades, and then I left my corporate career and thought, well, I could consult. I've got some mad skills now, and I feel like I can use these to help people.
Yeah.
And so when I look at that question now, how did I get here professionally? I started my company about probably 6 years ago, Brad, and I just played in my lane of, well, I've worked for some of the biggest companies in the world, leading large sales teams. These companies are ASX listed, or they're global companies. And so I know best practice when it comes to sales. So I thought, well, I'll just do that. So professionally, I started consulting, doing sales training, sales mentoring, sales coaching one-on-one, and I worked out pretty quickly, this is a terrible business model. And for two reasons. One, selfishly, it was a terrible business model because it wasn't serving me very well, but also it wasn't helping my clients very well. So I had noticed that doing sales coaching, sales training, and sales mentoring, it's a terrible business model because you're just always hustling. You're going from the next 60-minute session to finding your next 60-minute session. So commercially, terrible. Where I found out how it served people wasn't great was also I found that training, coaching and mentoring leaves the client with more questions than answers. And they go, well, I've got this stuff that you've taught me now, Julia, but what happens if this happens? And I had to be the awkward person that goes, kind of time's up, you're going to have, we need some more sessions. And I felt weird about doing that.
Yeah.
So I found that training, Brad, never fixed things. So I thought there has to be a better way. Around the same time, I became interested in negotiation skills, and I could talk all day about this. I'm a junkie for this topic. I love it. And what I found was that these skills can be used with sales skills to give it a high level of professionalism to begin with. It's also more interesting. But what I also found was training is out, process is in.
Yeah.
So I now get hired by service-based organisations, and I have a small team of 6 people in my company, and we work with service-based organisations to teach a repeatable sales process called the Infinite Sales System. This process is based on world's best practice, which is my decades of experience leading large teams, but it's also based on FBI negotiation skills. So I have learned and I continue to learn negotiation skills from hostage, crisis and terrorist negotiators. The stories are as cool as what people think they will be, but the principles are the same. So when the FBI negotiators are doing these world scale events, they have a success rate of achieving peaceful resolution 95% of the time.
Wow.
Now that's a remarkably high statistic. Now in the sales world, I go, that's a pretty good conversion ratio. So, but they are, and in those situations, that is life or death. So because I learn from some of these people, I get to ask them what did they do and how did they do it. And what I've just learned time and time again, the same skills and techniques that these FBI negotiators are using, Brad, in these dangerous scenarios, are exactly the same skills and techniques we can use in a repeatable sales process to convert more qualified contracts, increase our margins, and win more negotiations.
I love that you're working with service organisations, because in service organisations, the technical professional is possibly one of the most opposite to your standard salesperson, and the phone can seem like it weighs a ton, and the exec, the leadership team are saying, you've got to get on the phone, you've got to make more calls, you're not hitting your numbers. But they're like, hang on, I'm a lawyer, I'm an accountant, whatever it is. And the pressure in these environments can be really quite challenging. Now, I've only selected 2, but obviously you work with a range of businesses. So, yeah, tell me about how you are working with these organisations, and is that what you're seeing, that these people have these challenges as service professionals?
Yeah, so let me share more about that traditional sales business versus a non-traditional sales business. And then I'm also going to round out why I told you the story about being bullied, because there is a link here as well. When I had started my consulting company, I was working with traditional sales businesses. So a company that retail, insurance, SaaS companies to some degree, property, real estate. So companies who openly share that we are in sales. They would have a national sales manager and state sales managers and sales teams and BDMs. What I learned very quickly is that you can't teach them anything, Brad, because they know everything. And so I was talking to, there's always the exceptions to the rule, but I was talking to people who had heard all this before. Julia, why are you any different? And so for me, selfishly, this was largely unsatisfying work. Yeah. And who really wants to do work that's not satisfying? No one. That's who. So I thought there has to be a better way. So I thought, now I've got a system that's end to end. I want to teach this to companies who it's greenfields for. So as a result, 99.9% of clients we work with are non-traditional sales companies. They are the technician. So they are the architect, the engineer. They are and engineering is a huge industry. They are the tech company. They are the consultant, the auditing firm. They are, they are the manufacturing company who don't have a sales team or a sales director. They are the technicians on the tools, but they're also required to actually bring some new business in or optimize existing accounts. And when they learn how to do this, what it means is, probably, Brad, for the first time ever, for most of them, they can enjoy doing sales because what they're doing is they're winning with their words. And that is the link between why I share that story about my childhood, because now I have the confidence and competence that I have the words now. And that is all through being exposed to these negotiation skills that can be used in everyday conversations. So these are not special occasion skills, these are everyday skills.
A couple of things come to mind through all of that. Thank you for sharing your journey, your experience. But as I think about these technical organisations, there is sometimes a disrespect for the sales profession, in that they think, look, these people just go out there, they get paid the big bucks, and they're just poncing around. We're the ones that are doing the real work. But equally, there's a business imperative, i.e. the job must be done to go out and sell. And so there can be a real challenge between these two things. And so that's, I guess that's why knowing what you do, why I've asked you to come on as one of the earlier guests on this podcast, because I just see that this challenge is so big. These service organisations, and one comes to mind. There's a team that we work with, and they just keep switching people in and out of what I would call sales roles or account managers, e.g. they're connected to revenue. But these people aren't sales professionals. They've probably had a day's sales training maybe, and they're just coming along like that. So how often do you come across these organisations, number one? And number two, does that description of the challenge for these service organisations connect with you?
Yeah, I did a post on LinkedIn just recently, and it was exactly on this topic of using the word sales, and I'll share a funny story with you in a minute about this, but I have lost track, and I think the post is something along the lines of, I have heard this phrase more than my kids have asked me for an ice cream. Yeah. And the phrase I hear is, oh, Julia, you probably can't help us because we don't do sales. And I always play along, and my response is I pause, and I always say, oh, you don't do revenue? And what do they go? They always go, oh my God, of course we do revenue. And I then say, it's the same. Oh, no, but Julia, and again, I know this is a script, Brad, I've heard it so many times. They say, I don't know, what I mean is we're not used car salespeople. And I go, oh, I get that because you're an engineering firm. Yeah. Also, not someone who has a car yard at the front of their property. Yeah. So what they mean is, well, we don't do sales. We're not annoying. It's all the stereotypes. That's what they imply with this. So I had a story from a while back where I had a large professional services firm who were keen to work with me, and they said to me, oh, Julia, this sounds great, we would love to do this, but would you mind please, in all your documentation and all your presentations, would you just mind please taking out the word sales process and changing it to business development process instead? And I said, and they said, because our 50 partners will struggle to see that word. And I said, so can I do that? Yeah, I can do a quick find and replace. I can't do that though, because then I'm advocate. Like, sales is the oldest profession in the world. In fact, it's simply by definition an exchange of goods or services for some kind of currency of what someone finds of value. So I said, I can't change it, because then I'm also advocating that we can't call it what it is. And I'm sorry, but if you're in business and you have revenue, you are doing sales.
Yeah.
Whether that's a plot twist for some people out there and a shocking thing to hear, it's the same.
It's the same. It's the same. A couple of things coming out of that. I think it's been my observation in Australia and to a higher degree in Western Australia and Queensland, there is a cultural aspect which is we succeeded without sales or without marketing, right? And that translates into, you speak to an entrepreneur and they would say, yeah, so we've hit 10 million and we haven't even done one advert. We haven't even, like, we don't have a sales team. What's implicit behind that? That humble brag is that they're saying, we're so good that we don't need that. And it's very much a part of the Australian culture, I find. Do you experience that?
Yeah, so I posted a report on LinkedIn only a couple of in February, and what I found was it was basically, so last year I interviewed 49 managing directors and CEOs of service-based tier 2 and 3 organisations, and it was in hour-long interviews that were specifically designed to find out what their challenges are with sales, and yes, you could take that report and show it to anyone. They're like, oh my God, that sounds like us. Yes. So everyone has the same challenges. For the company that's doing the humble brag, as you've just shared, a couple of things I would suggest are, first, gosh, if you did 10 mil, we're not even trying. Imagine if you did. So I also think, I think from because I just play in my lane and I think, wow, you did that by accident? Like, imagine if you tried. Like, imagine, and I also think, I would hate to think what you missed out on if that's what you did by accident. Yeah. So I go, you might think that 10 mil is super duper. I go, sure, but what margins are you making on that? And if you put your hand on your heart, and again, this report shows that everyone's having the same sort of challenges, are those really ideal clients? Yeah. Or did you just take anyone? Yeah. Because having a repeatable sales process allows you to pick and choose who you want to work with, and allows you to work with more of the right kinds of clients, not just anyone with a pulse. And so the company who's just got there by accident, I think there's also higher risk in that. The other trend and risk I see around that is the other humble brag that I get. Oh, but Julia, 100% of business comes to us referral based. We don't need a sales process. And so that's the other thing. And I say, well, that's super risky. And they say, why? And I ask the following two questions, right? That's great that it's all coming in what I would call inbound to you versus through referrals or through your website traffic. And I say, right, can you tell me today when the next 10 are coming through and exactly how much they're going to be worth? No chance. So a 100% inbound structure or in your sales function is very, very risky. Yeah, no,
I agree. And you know, that's the thing that we come across so often. And I think it's born of a disrespect for sales as a profession. And that's because when they've seen salespeople before, they haven't really been trained or competent, and therefore it translates through there. But I want to come back to something that you said, which is LinkedIn. You're a machine in LinkedIn. You're one of the. We all see people on LinkedIn who do a bit here and a bit there, and then we see the people who are every day and they're all over it. So congratulations on your marketing efforts there. They're obviously paying effect. But there's one post in particular that I want to draw down to that you made a few months ago, and this was about Calendly. Calendly is a...
I have divided the internet on this post, Brad. Highly controversial.
Well, yeah. Well, see, that's the thing about viral posts. I think you can never predict which one it's going to be. But this is the one that went for you, right? And so Calendly, for those who don't know, is a booking platform. So you would say, hey, Julia, I'd like to meet up with you. Go to this software, Calendly, this website, and then find a time because it's connected with my calendar. So tell me about that post. What was the motivation that or perhaps frustration that got to that? And what's the problem that you see? as a sales professional from yourself?
Okay, so I will headline my next statements with an asterisk, basically sharing that my comments from here on in only relating to Calendly and or calendar booking platform links are only to do and in relation to winning new business.
Good. Because I was anxious when I was going to send you an invite to this podcast.
Yeah, so that would have been fine. That would have been fine because we know each other, right? So this is where divided the internet. Oh, Julia, calendar links are great. Calendar links are great. Yes, I'm all for a productivity tool. However, if you know the person and you already have all the trust in the world, so if I know I can text you, but and you're going to hit me with a text back, and you've stored me in and we're mates, yes, we can Calendly all day long. If I don't know you and I'm trying to get your attention or I'm trying to get you to book with me, sending you a Calendly link is going to end up at the bottom of your priority list.
Yeah.
That's my whole, that was my point on this. If you are looking to use Calendly and think you're being helpful by sending a Calendly link to the CEO of a top tier company for them to book in with you, plot twist, that's never going to happen. They're not booking in, they're deleting it.
Well, I mean, it's the objective of sales is to build trust throughout the journey, right? That's kind of 101. When I read it, I totally got it. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. There's a time and a place for a tool, but this is not the time or the place. So,
correct.
But you know the internet, right? There's always going to be upset at someone, even if you say the sky is blue.
And they say, my prospects are busy, Julia. And I say, yes, so you need to cut through some other way. Yeah. Find another way.
Yeah.
Don't send a calendar link. They won't use it. And then you'll forget, who did you send it to? Did I send it to them? Did they book in? Oh, they didn't book in. And that was 3 weeks ago. Your ship has sailed.
Yeah. So I'm interested in the book. Your first book, so congratulations. It's a hell of a lot of work to get to the launch day, and I realise the launch day isn't here yet. But so much work goes into it, not only in the writing and the documenting, but it's years and years of grind to get the ideas together enough, right? So tell me about the book. Who's it aimed at? Why should they buy it? And what are they going to get from it?
Can I share with you a funny story first of how it even came? So the request came in from the publisher via LinkedIn. And as we all know on LinkedIn has because their actual user number is 1 billion users. That's not an exact, that's their number. They have 1 billion users. So as we know in our inboxes on LinkedIn, sometimes stuff comes in that's weird. So this request came in and it smelled a bit Nigerian prince promising me lands of riches. And so I did nothing with it for a couple of days. And then I went back and thought, what if that was actually legitimate? So I replied to the message, and I will quote you. I wrote in along with other things, I did write in there, thank you for this message. This does seem a little bit Nigerian prince, and it does seem a little bit scam. Here is my email address. Would you please find another way to show me this is legitimate? And then I went for this strategy. Risky strategy.
Fingers crossed for those who aren't on the video.
Yeah, I'm going. Hope is a terrible business strategy, but I did deploy some hope. And then 24 hours later, an email came in that was very legitimate, and I thought, oh, thank goodness I didn't just ignore that one. So what started off was what I thought was a scam, not a scam. So then I got a book deal out of it from a major publisher. So the book is based on the Infinite Sales System. And again, this system is designed to help people who might say something like, oh, I'm not in sales, we don't do sales. Then this book is for you. Because what we do in this process, Brad, this is a system that's built on a trust-first approach. It's how to do sales with humility, with a people-first connection centered approach with it. So what you won't find in this book is any tips or tricks or weird stuff. Stuff that comes out of 1980 on sales that you might find when you watch the, the Boiler Room. Like, you won't find stuff on, don't read my book if you're watching that, if you love that movie. This book is not for you. So this is a book designed for professionals who actually want to do a modern day way of sales successfully, where it is, as I said, built, it's a human connection, it's built on trust, and it's Yeah, it's centered around humility, but a repeatable way. So you don't have to make it up as you go. Literally, all my secret sources in the book. So, you know, and as another example, you know, I get to talk with some great businesses about providing my services.
Yeah.
And in my company, I use the Infinite Sales System. It's the same. I don't do anything different. And my conversion ratio is 83%.
Wow.
So I know if I talk to 10 prospects, I know 8.3 are going to buy from me at some point. And I don't do anything different. And occasionally when I get a really good prospect, people say to me, oh my God, Julie, that's a massive opportunity. What are you going to do? And I just say, just do the things. You don't have to. When you have a repeatable system, your preparation time is literally 1 minute before the meeting. Sorry for anyone who I've met with and sold to. I would have spent little time researching you. Because this is designed to be repeatable. And because it's a process, you can dial it up or dial it down. But the book is full of some, you know, you might find some, you know, humorous stories in there. There's some FBI stories in there, also cool. But what you will get is a recipe. Follow this, do the things. It sounds simple, but it's not easy. So it's not magic. You need to still do the things.
So I guess what listeners might be thinking is there's a lot of sales books out there. I recognise that Julia is a specialist in service businesses. And maybe you've already answered this, but I do want to pick up on it in case people are thinking this. So what's different about the process or the book?
So so Wiley is my publishing team, and they have just been an absolute, they're just wonderful to work with. And it's funny, so for years, Brad, I've been spruiking, my process is unique. And because I started this process because no one had a process.
Yeah.
And I have shared for years that my process is based on world's best practice in sales process and advanced negotiation skills, and there isn't something like that around. So I asked Wiley the same question, and I said, there is 1 billion sales books around. So I said, why do you want mine? And it's very strange when you hear your own words played back to you, because they said, yeah, Julie, there is 1 billion sales books around, but there's nothing like this book. And I was like, really? What do you mean by that? And they said, well, we've never come across a book before that shows sales in a repeatable way that's based on world's best practice in sales process and advanced negotiation skills, where it's done with a trust-first approach and humility. And I was like, fascinating. That's really, I should have this in my marketing. And they said, well, it actually is in all your marketing. So when I heard that played back to me, that was very much as much as an out-of-body experience, as well as it was incredibly validating, because I thought, wow, like what I aim to achieve actually is what people are seeing. Yeah. So your answer to that question isn't my answer, it's the answer that Wiley gave me.
And I mean, they're Wiley. If they're not, they'd have to be one of the largest publishers in the world. They see a few ideas and books, right? And yeah, that's a good clarification, because I thought about the negotiation aspect, the process, the repeatable. Yeah, so you really stitched it all together quite well. Again, because I think that's what people might be thinking through this. How much does it cost to get it wrong? Now, you've got a process, you've got a team, you've got a book coming out. I don't necessarily anticipate an answer which is $137,000, but one of the drivers for action to improve a process or an activity should be, what am I going to get out of it? And you live in this space every day. So can you just maybe talk to the cost that you see from the inside, perhaps?
Yeah. So I'm doing 6-figure deals.
Yeah.
And my clients are at the bottom end doing deals that are worth tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or multi-millions. So my approach to this is the same, and it is the answer to that question, how much does it cost if you get it wrong? Yeah. So I go, if I'm doing 6-figure deals And if I'm prepared to lose those deals, and if for the audience who are listening, if you're doing 6-figure and 7-figure deals and you're prepared to lose them, then I have a tip for you. Then just make it up as you go and do it by accident. Like, just make it up.
Yeah.
But if you care about the deal, then you have to do all the things. So the answer to the how much does it cost if you get it wrong, well, it's catastrophic.
Yeah.
If you're doing consistently 6-figure deals, my question to you is, how many of those are you actually prepared to throw away?
Yeah. Well, everyone would say none. I want to get.
So if that's the case, you can't afford to do sales by accident. You need a repeatable process where you can predict the outcome.
Yeah.
So when you have a repeatable process, it means that you can measure it. And as we know, what gets measured gets done. So working in hand in hand with your CRM, you can get the data. The data tells you.
Yeah, that's good. Just one question on negotiation. What's the one thing that leaders can do to improve their negotiation skills beyond buying your book? Is there something that comes to mind?
You will regret asking me that question.
Okay, great.
There's not one thing. You have to do all the things.
That's fair enough.
But if you got to, as a friend of mine, you got to walk and chew gum at the same time. You've got to be able to do all the things. And, people ask me all the time, what percentage of your work that you do, Julia, is on mindset versus skills and techniques? I'm like, I am less than 1% on mindset.
Yeah.
My mindset is just do the things. But also appreciate that these are not special occasion skills. Yeah. Especially with the negotiation. Anytime you hear or think the words or say the words, I want or I need, you're in a negotiation. You just don't notice them because they're low stakes. But these are not special occasion skills, recognising that these are everyday skills. And people say, where would I use these? And I say, anytime you're communicating with a human.
Yep.
Do the things.
Cool. So I'm working on a project book at the moment, and it's about building a better business rather than building a bigger business. So what does a better business look like to you?
Yeah, so I also, and you and I have had conversations about this, Brad. I have drawn great strength from the Small Giants book.
Yep.
And as you would know with your entrepreneurial audience, quite often people, when they realise you've got a thing, they're like, you could be like a $100 million company. And I only commented on something yesterday on LinkedIn about this. And I shared my commentary was, sure that you can, but is that the right thing to do? Yeah. So in my company, I don't want to be a $100 million company. First, I don't need that much money. Second, it would stop me doing the things that I love. I love what I do so much, Brad. I'd work for free. Yeah. I do like the fact that I get to bring value and I get rewarded for that, but I love what I do so much. So I draw strength from that book, Small Giants. My company, I don't want to be big. I want to be great.
Yeah. Yeah, and we spoke about that extensively some time ago. That book for the listeners is called Small Giants by Bo Burlingham. I recommend it to all of our clients and pretty much everyone I meet. Thank you for that. But on that topic, is there a book that you would recommend for our audience that isn't Small Giants?
Yes. So people ask me all the time, what's a great sales book to read? Now, I don't love sales books. Yeah. And that's the same reason my business was created, because I feel like my experiences, they are outdated. However, one book I recommend everyone read is The E-Myth, Michael Gerber. You would know this. And the reason this book is so important if you're running a business is because his famous line from his book is, the system runs the business and the people run the system. Cool. So, for example, like if you were in McDonald's, buying a McDonald's franchise, irrespective of what you feel about hamburgers, you're not buying a burger business when you buy a McDonald's franchise. You are buying the operations manual. Yep. That's what that manual is, your key to profit. Yeah. Not how you use how you make the chips. So the system runs the business and the people run the system. So this is about systemizing your business, and it's not about being robots. People think systems means robots. No, it doesn't. Yeah. Systems still can be high touch human interaction. It just means the essential, what I've shared today, is don't make it up as you go. don't do the same thing 15 different ways. Systemize it in a way that's efficient, and then hire humans to do that. And again, this is what the infinite sales system is. The revenue system of your business is the infinite sales system. And then you hire people, whether it's a BDM or whether it's the engineer, just follow the bouncing ball, do the things, and your revenue system's intact. So that's a great book. E-Myth.
By Michael Gerber. Cool. How can people learn more about you and your business?
Oh, thanks, Brad. Follow me on LinkedIn. That's where my website's just a fancy brochure. And yes, it looks great, but that's static. LinkedIn is where you'll find, and I like to pride myself on being generous in sharing my expertise, because I genuinely want people to get better at these skills, because most people are terrible at them. So I share negotiation skills and techniques on LinkedIn. I share best practice on there. My secret sauce is on there. Yes, I would love you to buy my book from pitch to profit. But I just do better, everyone. Learn these skills. And if you find another practitioner that's doing them well, learn from them too. But yes, I point everyone towards me on LinkedIn. I'm Julia Ewert, E-W-E-R-T. And you can just follow me there and learn all the things.
Julia, what haven't we discussed that you wanted to cover off today?
Just the importance that these skills should have a greater value on them.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you don't do sales. We talked about that though. If you do revenue, this is for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Julia, what a pleasure it's been talking today, learning more about you, about the value of the sales process, and really the huge amounts of money that are left on the table through many businesses. Again, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today, Julia.
Thanks, Brad. You're great.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the episode as much as I did. If you'd be kind enough to leave a review for the podcast, that'd be really helpful to other like-minded entrepreneurs, and then we can grow our community. If you want to find out more about our guests, head over to evolutionpartners.com.au/podcast, where you can find show notes and other additional reading. Hope to see you back next week. Until then, keep thriving.